03 96 96 96. Now, last week, Con and I had a little bit of a falling out on the air, so we did. I hung up on Con because I felt that Con was trying to reignite a debate that wasn't relevant on the day, and that's the only reason I hung up. I said Con would be welcome back anytime on the opinion line. And he is. And he's there right now. Hi, Con.
Hello, PJ.
And nice to have you back on. And I'm glad I hope we didn't fall out. You got on to Brenda then to know if we could have a discussion on certain issues you'd been trying to raise.
Oh, yeah. Please.
Because as a practicing Catholic, you wanted to debate some things with Michael Nugent from Atheist Ireland. Now, Michael is there on another line, and I'll bring him in just a sec. Just to open the floor to you, as a practicing Catholic, what problems do you have with Atheist Ireland?
I have no problems with Atheist Ireland. I'd like to ask Michael Nugent, who does he represent? I mean, it's a simple thing. Does he represent, how many members has he? Does he represent atheists in Ireland, or is he just representing himself, or a few others? I have no problem with atheists. I have friends atheists, but none of them are joined Atheist Ireland. I wouldn't join it. So, I mean, who is he? Who does he represent? It's as simple as that. There's no problem at all.
And I know these are questions you wanted to ask for some time. So,
and it seems that he seems to have a problem with religion and religion in Ireland. No, I don't have any problem with atheism or anything else, because I don't interfere with atheists. They don't interfere with me, and I don't like my religion being dissed by this individual.
And do you believe he does?
Huh?
Do you believe he does?
Well, he seems to want to interfere in Catholic parents where they want to send their schools. He seems to have a problem with the cross and Cavan tool, that he doesn't seem that it should be there. And I just wonder, what does he want? Or what kind of an Ireland does he want? Does he want us all to go away? Like what happened with his brethren in Russia and the Soviet Union.
And do you think that it's because I know that, like yourself, I would have friends who are atheists.
Of course, very respectable and nice people.
Their view is that they are opposed to all organised, or any organised religion, that they don't subscribe, not they're opposed to it. They see everyone's right to, well, the atheists I know, see everyone's right to follow a faith if they want to follow a faith. But do you believe that they have a particular problem with Catholicism?
I think so, but it seems to be with all religions. I think they seem to have a particular problem. They seem to, not atheists, I'm talking about Atheist Ireland.
Right.
I mean, there's a big difference between atheists and Atheist Ireland. I mean, I have no objection to anyone getting free speech. In fact, you know, atheists have free speech here. Had Christians free speech in Russia, had on the Soviet Union, had they in China. Seems a lot of atheists seem to believe, and that's the attitude that Catholics do all the wrong, which they have, and I admitted there have been some appalling things. But if you look back to the Soviet Union and the murders, I'll give you one fact. PJ, I was reading a book called A Woman in Berlin. Between 79,000 and 130,000 were raped by Stalin's atheist army in Berlin in 1945.
Can I ask you something before I bring Michael in? Stalin's army, Stalin's atheist army. Are you sure they were all atheists?
They were all atheists, because there was no Christians really allowed. If you look up Google someday, you'd see the cathedral of Christ the Saviour being demolished in what you call it. The Russian Catholic Cathedral was turned into a store in 1923 and wasn't handed over until 1990.
Well, I'm going to bring Michael in now on another line, and the one thing that I don't want you guys to do is get stuck in each other. And if you do, I will sound my boxing bell. How's that? Okay, I got a bell put in for Michael. Good morning.
Good morning.
Michael Nugent from Atheist Ireland. Con wants specifically, and I'll let him question you in just a moment, but he wants me to ask you, who particularly do you represent? Do you represent every professed atheist in the country, or who do you represent?
No, nobody represents all atheists. Atheists are individual people, and we typically value our personal philosophical independence. Atheist Ireland is an advocacy group that represents people who join Atheist Ireland. We've around 400 or 500 paid-up members. We've around 10,000 likes on our Facebook page. We've associations with other atheist groups around the world through Atheist Alliance International. And what we do is we try to promote the idea that atheism and evidence-based worldviews are better than faith-based worldviews. And it's not just religion, by the way. We also think that faith in things like communism or Stalinism or the unregulated free market or anything that you believe in without proper evidence is equally bad. But religion is one particularly bad example of faith over evidence-based reality. And then the second thing we do, which I think should relieve Con's concerns a lot, is most of our activity is aimed at promoting separation of church and state. Now, that doesn't mean opposition to religion. It means that the state shouldn't be funding or supporting religion, and equally the state shouldn't be funding or supporting atheism. So I assume Con would
We were traditionally, were we not? We were traditionally, and it was recognised constitutionally that we were a Catholic country.
That's right. Well, constitutionally, we're kind of a Christian country. The Catholic Church did have a special position, but that was removed from the Constitution. But we still have a lot of Christian elements in the Constitution. You still have to swear a religious oath to God in order to become president, or to become a judge, or to become a member of the Council of State, which includes the Taoiseach and the Tánaiste and other officers. We have a law against blasphemy.
Well, you still have to profess allegiance to God to become president of the United States. So.
Well, actually, you don't. No, that's quite an interesting scenario. They have the opposite problem in America, in that the reference to God isn't in the Constitution, but what happens is just for whatever political reason that they have decided to add it in at the end of the
the so help me God bit, yeah.
Yeah, but that's just that. That's not actually in the
If you had an atheist president, actually, Michael, if you had a president of the United States who was an atheist, would they have to say so help me God on their inauguration?
No, they wouldn't. It's not in the oath. And in fact, there was a court case taken about it in America by an organisation in America that campaigns for separation, to maintain separation of church and state there, the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And what the court said is that it's not there. It's just something that the president chooses to add on after he has said the oath. But it's not constitutionally part of the oath.
All right. I've spoken to you both now briefly. So what I want to do is, Con has a couple of questions that he particularly wants to put to you, Michael. So,
sure. How many members have you? Just the straight answer. How many paid-up members?
Yeah, I said I don't have the exact figure to hand, but it's somewhere it hovers around the 400 to 500 mark. 400 to 500 because different people join and leave. We've about 10,000 likes on our Facebook page. And
Con, just one thing: if you ask a question, then at least let him answer. Okay, go on.
Yes, so that's the answer then. We've about 400 to 500 paid active members. We have about 10,000 likes on our Facebook page online. Sorry?
I'm interested in the people who paid their way.
Yeah, I've just answered that.
Yeah, but that's
so
okay.
How many people do you represent?
And tell me, Michael, why have
can I ask you how many people you represent?
In Callantool, or why do you have a problem with
I'll come to that,
Con. The Catholic schools?
Okay, easy guys. Okay, Con, what I want you to stop. Hang on. What I want to stop here is I want to stop crossover. I don't want to fight here.
I'll ask Michael, and I have great respect for him coming on, about the attitude that with his 400 or 500 members, that he seems to be able to dictate what ordinary people have and have not. Why is the case of the Callantool, the case of Catholics sending their children to Catholic schools? I've no objection to someone opening an atheist school. If Michael wants to open an atheist school in Cork, he's quite welcome, and I'll pay the taxes like I pay to anyone else. Why this problem with the Angelus? Are we not entitled to have the Angelus? Why does it worry Michael as an atheist so much that the Angelus is on the television?
There's a few things there rolled into one. So stay back now, Con, and let him answer those.
Okay, I'll try to take all of those issues. The first one is that Con seems to be leaving out from his analysis is our concern is state-funded religion. It's not religion. You're perfectly entitled to say the Evangelists 24 hours a day if you want. Perfectly entitled to set up your own schools that teach whatever you want if you're paying for it yourself. However, if the state is paying for something, The state provides facilities for all citizens, not just for citizens of one particular belief. And the reason that the state should not be funding schools specifically for Catholics is the same reason that the state shouldn't be funding roads or fire stations or hospitals for Catholics, or indeed shouldn't be funding any of those things specifically for atheists. Now, I presume that Con would realise, if it was the case, that you had to swear an oath that there's no God in order to be president, and if you had to send your child to a school funded by the state that actively taught children that there was no God, and that there was a law against religion rather than a law against blasphemy, Con would immediately realise that all those things are wrong, that the state shouldn't be taking sides against religion, and equally the state shouldn't be taking sides for religion. Now, with regard to the other issues that Con raised in terms of the cross in Carntoohil, obviously it's disgraceful that was vandalised, and the vandals should be arrested and they should be imprisoned. Typically now, both in Ireland in terms of the statue in Ballinspittle and other things around the world, typically it's religious people that destroy symbols of other religions. Atheists tend not to do that. But once it was gone, once that cross was gone, and as I say, the people should be imprisoned for damaging it and for destroying it, there was an opportunity for the community in that area to say, will we replace it with another symbol that might have been appropriate when we put it up in the 1950s of a largely Catholic community in the area? Or should we choose instead to put up an inclusive symbol that would reflect everybody in the community?
Can I ask you a question based on that, Michael?
Sure, yeah.
Because I remember covering that with a friend of mine who climbs Carron-Tool practically in his sleep. What business is that of yours?
Well, it's a request that we made. We're not demanding anything. The business it is of ours is that we have members in Kerry, and the members in Kerry are part of the community in the area, and they were asking the people who were claiming to represent the community, will you put up a symbol that's inclusive of us as well as of you, rather than one that just represents part of the community?
Okay, does that handle that one for you, Con?
Well, it doesn't, because the whole problem is that what kind of a symbol would he want up there to represent the whole community? After all, for the whole community put it up again. And number two, about Christians, I have no doubt in my mind was atheists destroyed that cross. And I have
fair play to you for your mind reading.
No one, but nobody has been brought into that.
Why would a Christian destroy the cross? The cross is a symbol for all Christians.
Well, the statue in Ballinspittle was attacked by Christians who went to court and had a Bible.
Let him make his point, Con, then you can answer it.
The Christians who destroyed the cross in Ballinspittle went to court and read Bibles while they were being sentenced. It's typical, and if you look around the world today, Islamists attacking symbols of other religions, it's typically religious people that feel more strongly about symbols of other religions, because religious people who believe that their God is a rival to the God that the people or their variation of the God or their denomination. Whereas atheist people tend not to particularly see these symbols as particularly damaging themselves. All that we were saying is and we had no problem with the cross being there while it was there. What we said is when the community was deciding what they were going to replace it with, our members in Kerry said, will you please consider putting up something that will be inclusive of atheists as well as Catholics and indeed of other religious people.
And what kind of thing might that be, Michael? As Con was
you
asking.
could have something maybe that's representative of the universe, something that's representative of planet Earth. You could have something representative of County Kerry as a county. There's many things that you could do, and we wouldn't want to dictate that, because it should be the community that decides that. But what we were asking was just I'll put it this way: just as Con would be upset if the community had decided to put up a big, huge plaque saying there is no God, he would realise that that's not an appropriate thing to represent the community, and equally something that represents one particular religious belief doesn't do that either.
Okay, does that answer that one, Con?
One question. There's a big difference between the statue of Our Lady and the cross. The cross is a symbol for all Christians. The statue of Our Lady is not a symbol for some Christians, and they'd have no interest in the statue of Our Lady. That's a Catholic
but there's more than Christians, though, Con.
It doesn't suit what it would call Pentecostals and other religions. So there's a difference. The cross is a symbol for...
But aren't you kind of adding to his argument there, Con? Because I think his argument, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, is that an awful lot of conflict in the world is caused by people saying, "Oh, my religion is better than your religion."
Well, we can go back to the Soviet Union, can't we? I mean,
anyway, move on from the statue or from the symbol on top of Caron Tour. There'll be another question or two.
Well, the question that I would like is about atheism and the Soviet Union. I mean, were they not atheists? The people who murdered, raped, and destroyed Christian churches, destroyed Christian people, destroyed Jews, destroyed. Why do we all have to? Why do atheists seem to, or militant atheists seem to wriggle out of that all the time?
Michael,
it's the truth. Do they not like the truth?
Michael.
Okay, first of all, obviously any atrocity is bad, whether it's committed by a religious person or an atheist. But atheism doesn't cause atrocities. Atheism doesn't have a creed or a dogma that instructs atheists to do anything, whether it's good or bad, whereas religions do. For example, Hitler wasn't an atheist. Hitler was a Roman Catholic who remained religious throughout his entire life, and who wrote in Mein Kampf that he believed he was doing the Lord's work in fighting against the Jews. The Nazis went into battle with the word God was inscribed on their belt buckles. But we don't blame Catholicism or Christianity for Hitler. We blame Nazism for Hitler in the same way as we blame Stalinism for or Maoism for the atrocities carried out in the names of those dictatorial ideologies. So whether somebody is religious or atheist, you also have to be democratic. And atrocities and injustices, they're made more likely when people place faith and dogma ahead of reason and empathy and compassion. And faith and dogma can also be used to advance non-religious interests, like from fascism to Nazism and so on.
All very measured and fair, isn't it, Con?
Michael, number one, Hitler gave up going to church in 1910. He absolutely he murdered 3,000 Catholic priests and 3 million Catholic lay people. That doesn't sound like a very nice cat. He gave up the Catholic faith in 1910 before he fought. He was never religious to his life. When he got married to Eva Braun in a non-religious service. Probably he had the priest murdered in Dachau or somewhere. But as I say it again, 3,000 priests. The buckle, that was going back to Prussian times, and that was a thing. He had no interest in religion. No. Conrad Lennon, who you probably know about, he wrote in his essay on religion, atheism is an inseparable part of Marxism. In Russia, and of course I suppose in China and all these very interesting places, religion is persecuted, and that seems to be the story all the time, and we hear nothing about it. And the one thing as I would say is that I have great respect for atheism, but for people who are atheists, but there's no good this idea of saying, take the case in Russia, there was churches closed down, the Donskoy Monastery was closed down in Moscow, the St. Casimir's Church in
I don't want to get into a really long history lesson, but I think your point has been made. Michael,
let me finish my point. They were turned into museums of atheism. They were where people went in and guides ridiculed faith, ridiculed religion, ridiculed everything else inside there. They were museums. The Society of Militant Atheism conducted all the putting the whole thing into thing. It was an atheist state because Lenin said it was an atheist state, and people conducted themselves in that way. People were murdered, and this idea that that wasn't atheist at all, and this wasn't an atheist ideas.
Okay. I want to let Michael come back in now.
Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah, well, as I said, atrocities are to be condemned, and we strongly condemn them, whoever they're committed by. But Stalinism, Nazism, Maoism, and so on are not based on atheism or religion. They're based on the dictatorial agendas of those particular leaders. If you look at the world today, you find that the happiest countries are secular liberal democracies like the Scandinavian countries, Northern European states. In general, secular countries have lower rates of murder, of juvenile and early adult mortality, of sexually transmitted diseases, of teen pregnancy and abortion. And there are a lot of studies that have shown that atheists and secularists are typically less nationalistic, less prejudiced, less racist, less dogmatic, less ethnocentric, less closed-minded, less authoritarian and more politically tolerant, and that 4/5 of the countries with the gravest violations of freedom of conscience and religion and belief today are actually Islamic countries rather than atheist countries. So we're living in a world that is gradually becoming more secular. That's based on people having investment in health, education, communications technologies, democracy that helps societies to move away from traditional religious values towards secular rational values. And that's
I need to wrap this, guys. We've given it about time. Con, he has his facts to hand. You have yours. Can you not just agree to disagree?
No, that's just one question. Could I answer Michael's point about Northern Europe? Sweden has the highest number of rapes in Europe. In fact, it is second only to South Africa in the highest number of rapes. How are they so happy when they have a high school? How can you judge if people in Sweden or Denmark are happier than people in Ireland or England or in North Korea? I mean, you can come along and say they're the happiest people. How do you know that?
Well, because there are studies done by groups such as the World Values Survey, which is a team of interdisciplinary social scientists who do these studies around the world. That
means absolutely nothing. I mean, there's
freedom. Well, it does mean something. You can't just say it means absolutely nothing.
No, it took a long time before Catholics had the right to worship. There's freedom of religion in what you call it, but they're still very troubled countries. I mean,
can I ask you one question before we finish? Con, can I ask Con a question?
Yes, of course. Let him ask you a question, Con.
Con, would you agree that atheists in Ireland should have the same rights with regards to the state provision of various services as religious people?
Of course I would. But okay. I would expect that atheists in Ireland would respect our traditions.
Of course you will.
I go back, Michael, to RT and the Angelus. Now, I don't know what to say about the Angelus. It's 1 minute. But let's take, for instance, that I'm paying a TV licence as well. And I have to
exactly. But Con, I'll ask you a question then, Con. Would you be happy, Con, if instead of the Angelus, RTE broadcast a minute of Richard Dawkins telling people that there's no God before the news every day?
Well, I wouldn't care less about Richard Dawkins because, as you know,
no, that's not what I'm asking you. Nice. I'm asking you, would you be okay with RTE instead of the Angelus? Well, you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't. And the reason that you wouldn't is exactly the same reason as I'm not happy with the Angelus.
And he's the most nasty man. Richard Dawkins, do you agree with this statement by Richard Dawkins in 2010 at the Rally for Life? He said about religious people, mocked them, ridiculed them in public. Do you agree with that statement?
I don't believe in mocking people, but I believe that ideas that do not stand up to rational analysis should be criticised, and if appropriate, should be mocked because ideas that are silly don't help society to advance.
You can mock people and ridicule people. Where's your respect for people?
No, you're not even listening to me. I said that I don't mock people. I said I mock ideas. There's a difference between ideas and people. People should be respected, and people's right to hold religious beliefs should be respected. But the content of the beliefs don't have to be respected. Just as you don't respect the content of the beliefs of other Christians.
That's the question. Do you agree or don't disagree with that?
I missed the question. I'm sure I've already answered it, but ask me again.
He said about religious people, mock them.
He did answer that, Con.
Yeah, but I've already answered that. I said I don't agree.
Do you agree with mocking religious people?
No, I've already said.
You agree with Dawkins, though.
I've answered that 4 times now. I'll try the 5th time. I don't agree with mocking people, but I do believe in mocking beliefs that if the beliefs don't stand up to evidence. I mean, you don't seem to listen to what I say. You ask me a question, I answer it, and you just keep answering the same question as if I haven't answered it.
Dawkins said mock the people, not their ideas.
Okay, I'll try 6th time. Yeah, I disagree with that.
Don't be funny, you know what, Michael.
No, he's not actually being funny, Con, because I've been taking notes here. He has answered your question 4 times. Just, I want to bring, Mike, I'm going to let you go, Michael. Thank you for your time. We have overrun on the item, so thanks a lot, Michael. But I just want to bring Colm in, Con, before I let you go, because Colin's picked up on something you said, and then we're gone with it. Yes, Colm.
I want to ask Con, does he agree that the Pope did the right thing in sending condolences to Germany when Hitler died? And is that the right thing for the Catholic Germany when Hitler died?
Let him finish the question, Con. So do you think that it was right that the Vatican sent condolences to Germany when Hitler died?
They didn't.
Did they call him?
The whole thing about the Pope, which seems to come up a lot. I remember Father O'Flaherty, who worked in the Vatican, and he saved between 6,000, about 6,000 people. He was born in
As
Cork,
usual, Kant starts talking about something else instead of...
He started talking about something else. Guys, listen,
I won't answer the question as usual.
The Pope said no condolences to what you call him. So get your information somewhere else. Or get proper information and come back to me.
Listen, guys, you're not going to integrate. I agree between you, but listen, I'm going to end the round. I'm the referee. I've done my best with that one. 1850 715 996. If anybody wants to come back to it, grand. I'm off for some headache tablets.
The Opinion Line.
With the Irish Daily Mail, Cork's best value family newspaper.
Cork's 96 FM.
Kick it.
This Thursday, Linfield travel to Leaside to take on Cork City FC in the Europa League second leg clash. And Cork's 96 FM will be there.
Join me, Trevor Welch and Billy Barry for full match commentary from 7:45 online at 96fm.ie.
Cork City versus Linfield. Live from Turner's Cross this Thursday.
Only on 96fm.ie.
Official partner to Cork City FC.
Call the Opinion Line. 1850-715-996. Cork's 96 FM.
On Twitter to @OpinionLine96, Margaret says, Jesus, if we could all just be more respectful and more tolerant of each other, then the world would be a better place. Then the text says 283-396-96-96. Why are all Con's arguments about Russian history? Get with the times and stop trying to cause problems where they don't exist. Margaret says PJ asking Con to agree to disagree might be pushing it just a smidgen. I know. I did the best I could. Tom says, very decent of you in the show, PJ, as Con can be extreme in his views on religion, and I believe Con might find something to help people and forget about the past history of a failed Europe. I'd say to Con, as a Catholic Christian myself, instead of delving into all this negative stuff, he might go out and help his fellow man by doing good. Well, I've no doubt that he does. And I've no doubt that Con is a very nice and decent man. But he holds his views very, very passionately. Roy on Twitter. Roy says, he tweets, is Con deaf? Is Con deaf? Is Con deaf? All right. 1850 715 996. Look, we did it. It's done.